having gotten out my little vitriol about telling me for the third time in this segment about how lousy the stock has been. I got it. That's a fact.
Listen, Tesla is a vanity purchase. People have to have a Tesla. They have a second vehicle.
All that and more. So let's get to it.
All right, let's do our calls of the day. And the first one is really interesting. It's from Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas, and it's on the auto industry. Jimmy, obviously coming to you. He says, quote, "We see 2024 as a year that may determine the long-term relevance of the U.S. auto industry." Now, he has overweight ratings on both General Motors and Ford. Let's just state that at the outset. He does say, however, the average S&P 500 company spends its market cap in CapEx and R&D in about 50 years. GM and Ford spend their market cap in 1.9 and 2.6 years, respectively. This cannot continue in our view.
General Motors and Ford have been icons, staples, if you will, in the American economy. They even have a presence internationally. But with all the turmoil around automobiles, the transition to battery electric vehicles, the strike with the UAW, none of this has been good for General Motors or Ford. Therefore, the stock has been suppressed. Whether that's artificially or substantially, that's not for me to decide. What Morgan Stanley is saying is that if General Motors and Ford are to succeed, their market caps need to be higher. The big question is, will they succeed? Wages are going up substantially thanks to the UAW in an environment where they're struggling, to say the least, to transition to battery electric vehicles. At some point, the juice isn't going to be worth the squeeze for GM and Ford. Being profitable in battery electric vehicles isn't as easy as Tesla makes it look. So Adam Jonas over at Morgan Stanley says, either I could say these companies are going to go bankrupt or that they're going to survive. If they're going to go bankrupt, I can't have this call on, but if I choose to believe that they will survive this, not only will they survive, but they should flourish. That's some dangerous thinking, if you ask me.
Two stocks that have done next to nothing. You saw General Motors target 40. It's well below that now. I didn't see Ford. Can we throw Ford up again, please? Because that was quick. The target is 15. There's General Motors trending just shy of 29. He has 40. Ford, there it is at 10. He has 15.
Good setup. I mean, there's a lot of, I agree with the premise. I agree that this is the year coming up that it's either make or break. And I hate saying that, but it's the truth. There's a lot that's gone on. We've got this tug of war between EVs and internal combustion engines. Now, oddly enough, paradoxically, the adoption of EVs is actually helping internal combustion engine as it's lowering gasoline demand, and with it, crack spreads in gasoline prices, which is making internal combustion engines, from a cost point of view, more attractive than they were just a year ago.
Boy, is that just the glass half full. That's right? Like Blockbuster saying Netflix is helping because the lines in Blockbuster aren't as long. True, your customer experience has gotten better, but you do notice that your customers are dwindling, right?
So you're seeing a good demand for internal combustion engine, which helps GM and Ford. However, these labor costs, we need to see. I mean, look, there has been a ton of profit at these companies, a ton. And we need to see how much these labor costs eat into them. I think it's actually very simple to raise prices 1% to 2% on your auto sales over the next 4 years to really cover that cost, but we have to see. The proof will be in the pudding.
You best believe that the prices for GM and Ford, Stellantis, they're going up to cover these labor costs. That's the only way these things can play out, because they're at the end of the line in innovation with the internal combustion engine. Presumably, over the past century, they've eked out as much cost as they possibly can. And with battery electric vehicles, yeah, that's not going so hot, because those things cost a fortune to make, and their margins, whew, those things are still negative, folks.
In the pudding.
The commentary he's got around the EV push is that he thinks they can both participate in that, but this is interesting what he says, at some scale through a more measured and collaborative approach.
Bingo.
While also returning capital to shareholders.
And let me thank you for pointing that out.
That's like having your cake and eating it too.
Well, but they've been doing it. So, you know, they're spending, I'll take GM. They've spent about $10 billion in R&D on the last 12 months, and that's up about 50% from pre-pandemic. That's been spent on EV build-out at the same time that they're buying back 5% of their shares outstanding year over year. Now, the key thing is in the last couple of months, management, Mrs. Barra has said, we're slowing down the EV CapEx build-out. That's what you got to do when you see these EV inventories piling up and the demand has gone down is slow down the CapEx. So to Mr. Jonas's point, and he's an excellent analyst, about the amount of R&D spend, yes, let's bring it down to a measured pace, but they still want to invest in the EV space for the long-term future. The one data point I want to, you got to do this. If you're going to say, I've never heard this before, R&D is a percentage of market cap. R&D is management's decision. The market cap is the market's decision. And right now, the market cap is extraordinarily low for these companies. So I don't think I'd be judging management's R&D decision by where the market cap is. It's ridiculous.
This is where I disagree with Adam Jonas. I want Ford and GM to survive. I have all my money in Tesla. Tesla bull, Tesla fanboy, what have you, but I don't want to see Ford and GM go belly up. And my reasons aren't for altruism. No, I don't want to have to bail them out. And that's what's going to have to happen if these companies are to survive, should they not make the necessary moves to convert to battery electric vehicles. They're not going to catch up to Tesla. In terms of battery electric vehicles, comparing them to Tesla is foolhardy, but they need to be figuring out how to make their battery electric vehicles better than their internal combustion engine variants. If they can't do that, they are dead in the water. And I'm not talking about just a little bit better than your ICE vehicles. They need to be Tesla level better than your internal combustion engines.
What is the catalyst to get people to buy these stocks?
Well, nothing in the next month.
Because you make a compelling argument. You really do, but you have been for the last year, and the stocks only go down.
Well, a couple of things. Look, pretty soon, I think it's in a couple of weeks, there's going to be a GM analyst day in which they'll say what the effects of the labor strike is. And look, let's face it, analysts, sell-side analysts are holding back. They are just waiting to see what management guides them before they put their numbers out there. I think they're going to find, as I just look at the numbers, that it's not that draconian and that the profits are going to be there. But I think that's what you're waiting for a catalyst point of view. Absent that catalyst, they're going to keep buying back these shares at 50% of book value, and I'll just keep concentrating my share of a very good earnings stream.
I'm going to read an email I got from a loyal viewer, I'll just say that, who emails me a lot. I would love for Jim to comment on the fact that GM is $5 below the November 2010 IPO price of 33.
My comment is that sucks, but let me also ask the loyal viewer, what comment do you want me to make to that? You're giving me factual data points and not telling me where it's going from here.
No, but I think it underscores kind of the point that Steph was making, that the bullish fundamental outlook that you have hasn't worked and doesn't continue to work, and thus is it suspect to believe at this point that it will work?
Well, having gotten out my little vitriol about telling me for the third time in this segment about how lousy the stock has been, I got it. That's a fact. However, when you're a long-term investor, you are making a decision today, not based on the last 10 years, today. And what the earnings stream is versus the price that you're paying for the shares, I see this a very compelling value. And that's all I can do. I'm a long-term investor. I'm not going to get worried about it.
The political push to force you to buy an electric car in many states hitting another little bit of a speed bump. In fact, thousands of auto dealers are now calling for President Biden to, quote, tap the brakes on the unrealistic government electric vehicle mandate. Their word.
Listen, people, we're not going to be able to keep these foreign automakers with their battery electric vehicles, namely China, from our shores for very much longer. They're building factories in Mexico. The government mandate is absolutely unnecessary for the transition to battery electric vehicles. But it is absolutely necessary for the transition to Ford and GM. They need all the government assistance that they possibly can to make this transition. Problem is, Tesla's probably going to eat up most of those funds. But in actuality, the IRA is designed to help Ford and GM. It is in your best interest to push these electric vehicles. I know, they're shit. Nobody wants to buy them, but that's never stopped you before, dealers. Tell me that you don't be pushing shit on consumers.
With us tonight is one of those dealership owners, the owner of Celebrity Motor Cars, Tom Maioli. Tom, this isn't like you and a couple other people, right? I mean, this is a lot of car dealers writing this letter to the White House.
Yes, good to see you. This is thousands. This is thousands of dealerships that represent multiple brands, not just one brand, domestic, international brands, and all across the board. And this is basically the voice of the consumer. This is not the dealer. This is the voice of the consumer. And what's happening is the manufacturer is being forced to produce these EVs. They're shipping them to the dealerships, and they're backing up on the lots. Our average day supply pre-COVID was 60 to 90 days supply of inventory. During COVID, it was less than 30 because of the supply chain issues. We're now backed up to 12 months with EVs. Consumers don't want them. They're not buying them. We have up to $15,000 in rebates from the manufacturer and $7,500 tax credits. We're talking $22,500.
And people, they think I'm some EV hater. I've owned an EV. I've driven many of them. I'm not. In fact, I've been poking around because I think they're very cool in many different ways. I was looking at a Ford F-150 Lightning, and I saw something, and you have a Ford dealership, and it wasn't on your website, it was on cars.com. I don't know who the dealer was.
Should have been on my site.
Well, I'll go back, okay? But the Lightning retails for what, 95 new, something like that?
Yes.
Damn! I wonder what the Cybertruck is going to retail at new. $95,000 for a marginally better version of the F-150? And you wonder why these things aren't selling?
Okay, right. I saw brand new F-150 Lightning, like 23 miles on it, for $78,000. It had been marked down $20,000. Yes. How is that possible?
Yeah, unless I miss my guess, that thing is still more expensive than the Cybertruck.
Still can't sell it. Consumer doesn't want it. The consumer's in fear over the infrastructure. The infrastructure is not there. The White House and the Biden administration and got way out over its skis with this mandate, and the consumer has to buy into it, and they're not. And the problem that exists now is, they force the manufacturers to spend all this money to build these plants and produce these vehicles, but the consumers aren't buying into it. They're afraid of range. They're afraid of where they're going to charge. And we're not talking about, listen, Tesla is a vanity purchase. People have to have a Tesla. They have a second vehicle.
Vanity purchase? Ooh, I didn't know we was getting fancy. Under $40,000, I guess that could be a little vain. Model Y, yes. Under $45,000 qualifies for the federal tax credit. I suppose this could be a little vain as well. $75,000, right around that price tag of the F-150 Lightning. I don't think these are backing up in Tesla's inventory. The Fabergé egg, the most expensive of Tesla's luxury items, can be yours for less than $80,000, still qualifying for the federal tax credit. Oh, I do declare these are some vain purchases for battery electric vehicles.
Most people can't afford the first vehicle, never mind the second vehicle. And these people are coming out to the dealerships, and they're buying these vehicles, and they're afraid. These are average working American people. They're putting their families in the car. Moms are driving their kids to school. Dads have to get to work.
Can you kill them? Can you kill a myth? Because there's going to be people on Twitter that pop up after this segment and say, dealers hate them because they're not getting the services revenue. I talk to car dealers almost every day. I got friends that own them, and they make a ton of money on EV service because the EV costs are much higher. The windshield in an EV is like $5,000.
What? The windshield is one of the few things that breaks on an EV, and who's paying $5,000 for it? It's glass. One of the reasons these EVs are piling up on dealership lots is because they don't know about them, and their ignorance is oozing out of them when they're in front of customers. We're looking to trade in Shinju, our Model Y, and give an opportunity to some of these small-time dealerships that might want to have a Model Y on their lot. If it's not CarMax, these motherfuckers have no idea what these things are worth. I'm giving the car salesman a crash course in battery electric vehicles as I'm trying to get a quote on the trade-in. I know they don't know about electric vehicles, which was actually quite alarming. Probably why they're charging you $5,000 for a windshield. What are they charging you for tires? Windshield wiper fluid. Watch out, they might get you for an oil change.
We're either going to sell EVs, we're going to sell gas vehicles, or we're going to sell hybrids. We're going to sell something. We believe in EVs. They're a part of the market, but it has to evolve, and they're not letting it evolve.
So this is not like we just hate them because they don't need oil changes, right?
No, not at all. No, we want to sell EVs, but they have to evolve. You have to let the market evolve and the infrastructure evolve, not shove it down the consumer's throat.
I don't care one way or the other, but I do care if GM and Ford need a bailout. EVs are an economical inevitability. Tesla is so far ahead in battery electric vehicles, you gotta look at second place through a telescope. And that wasn't by accident. It is no coincidence that Tesla chose to forego that rigmarole because of situations like this. The fact that Ford and GM are tied to this dealership model is just another albatross around the neck, keeping them weighed down. And if the dealerships aren't helping, they're hurting. I wonder how bad GM and Ford wish they could just cut out the cancer, which is that dealership model. In conclusion, Ford and GM stock is pretty low. Sounds like opportunity? No? And dealerships around the country are whining about the EV government mandates. We're not ready. If we let the dealers decide, they'll never be ready. That's all I got for you today. Be easy. Peace.